How's it going, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully, having a good day. If not, maybe I could brighten it up a little bit. So, NFL free agency is about to get underway. We know that. You got WBC, all that happening, but the NFL, in in its own way that it always seems to do this, stays in the spotlight even when they're not playing on the field. So, looking around the free agency, there are five um, narratives, questions, storylines that I feel like will shape what free agency kind of turns out to be. Obviously, would love to hear yours. You don't have to give me your five. You can give me what your top free agency storyline that you feel like will be. Let me know in the comments. We'll talk about it down there. You can also talk about it over on the Discord for the show, which if you haven't joined, would love for some of you to do so. I mean, I'd love for all of you, but if you want to use Discord to talk sports or even give me some topics that you want me to talk about here on the show, the link should be in the profile, but if you don't see it and you need the link, leave a comment. I will give you the link. You join up. Let's talk over there. But also, look, you've already tuned in. Hit the like button. Follow and subscribe if you haven't. Leave a review. All that good stuff. Get it out of the way. So, looking at free agency. The first thing for me, the Browns and their quarterback situation. Now, this is nothing against like what Shador did at the end of the season, or if you're a fan of Dylan Gabriel and you think he deserves another shot. I'm coming at this from the point of Deshaun Watson. It seems like the Browns are going to give Deshaun Watson an opportunity to do whatever it is Deshaun Watson can do in 2026. Can he give you anything? Because I guess if you look at his contract, the earliest they could probably move off of him is 2027. So this next season, because they're not going to trade him. Nobody's going to trade for him. That goes without any explanation. If they have to go through this season, if he is actually healthy, I guess they're going to have to give him the opportunity to win the starting job from Shador Sanders. And we know Shador Sanders is not a finished product. So if Deshaun Watson can go out there and look like anything of his former self, he probably wins the job. I'm not saying that's the best thing for them, but I feel like that's the direction they're kind of taking this. I think what they need to do is try to, I think they've done this already, restructure his deal once. I think they need to kind of approach that again, restructure his deal, get more money off, and then take that money to build up the team for post Deshaun Watson. Because there's no chance he stays there past next season, I feel like. Unless he goes out there and wins MVP, gets them to the playoffs or something. I don't see that happening, so I'm assuming he's gone next year. They have to now start planning for life after Deshaun Watson. Whether that is, completely buying into Shador being the post Deshaun Watson era quarterback, or if they have to go out into free agency and get somebody, which would be yet another quarterback on the payroll. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. 2, the A.J. Brown, Max Crosby trade market. I think Max Crosby is probably more likely to get moved because we saw how last year ended, where the team basically was like, hey, Max Crosby's too injured to play. You stay home, whatever. We're not trying to win games. We're not trying to win our last game. We're trying to get that number 1 pick. Max Crosby's like, I want to play. Let me play. So it seems like that needs to be resolved with Max Crosby going somewhere else. And, Max Crosby, 28 years old, obviously not an old guy. He's seen as one of the premier pass rushers. We know how much this league loves their pass rushers. So there's going to be a market for him. And the Raiders could obviously get a good haul for him. Probably not Micah Parsons level, but they should be able to get like a couple of picks, I would say. Which for the Raiders, you jump at that opportunity because you are a team that is rebuilding. There's like no bones about that. 73 tackles, 10 sacks last year, 28 tackles for loss. Like, yeah, he's still a very productive player. A.J. Brown, on the other hand, I feel like the interest from teams with A.J. Brown is more so to see kind of how disgusted the Eagles organization is with him. Because the more the Eagles want to just move off of him, the lower the asking price. I think I've seen teams are saying that the Eagles are asking for a lot, as well as they should. A.J. Brown, for I guess all the headaches that come along with him, he is a productive wide receiver, and we know wide receivers. Once again, I think some teams expect the headaches to come with them as long as they're productive. He had 78 catches, over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Plenty of teams would take that from a guy who I guess is a number one receiver in this league. Which what may work in A.J. Brown's favor is if he could find his way out of Philly, if he wants to be out of Philly. I'm not saying he does, I don't know him, but if he wanted to get out of Philly, the wide receiver market isn't great. Like, Alec Pierce is seen as the best wide receiver on the market. I think Alec Pierce is a really good wide receiver. He had over 1,000 yards last year with the quarterback situation with Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson. So he's a productive wide receiver. I just don't think he's a number one wide receiver, whereas A.J. Brown is a number one guy. You get Rashid Shaheed and guys like that who are good complementary wide receivers, but they're not a alpha number one wide receiver. So I think it's going to be interesting to see more so A.J. Brown and just how badly, I put that in quotes, how badly the Eagles want to move off of him. Not saying that they do, but I'm just saying the way that it was viewed last year seems like there's frustration on the A.J. Brown side as well as conceivably from the Eagles. So, 3, the quarterback market in general, which we learned the Cardinals have come out and said, hey, if we can't trade Kyler Murray, we're just going to cut him when the league year starts, which I never understood why teams did that, because even if you were a team that was interested in trading for him, why would you do it now if the team's telling you if we can't trade him, we're just going to cut him? Now, obviously, if he does get cut, that does open it up for other teams to get involved. So if you truly want Kyler Murray, I guess you would go ahead and trade for him. That way you don't have to worry about free agency playing a part in it, but still, it is what it is. So now his addition to the quarterback market potentially, does that change some teams' plans? Because before, even though we all kind of understood Kyler Murray was probably done in Arizona, but if he was still in Arizona, the best quarterback would be a Malik Willis, who, let's be honest, a couple of years ago, you would have thought the world had ended if Malik Willis was going to be the top quarterback in the free agency market. But there is no denying what he did with the Packers and how, I guess, more polished he looked. You know, he was thrust into some game action this past season when Love got hurt. He won that big game against Baltimore. I think teams are going to have to weigh the fact that, is he now a different quarterback than he was when he first came in? Was it a fluke, the couple of games that he played? Or is he like a spot starter and not necessarily a guy that could be a franchise quarterback, I guess? Like Malik Willis, I believe, is 26, 27 years old, so he still has plenty of time. But it's just, who exactly is Malik Willis? I think that's going to shape his market, because there are teams out there, Pittsburgh or the Jets. I guess you have to look at the Cardinals now. Like, there are teams out there that really need quarterbacks, especially with the draft, where it's seen as like Fernando Mendoza and then a kind of steep drop off until the second guy. Anthony Richardson, who I just spoke about a little bit ago. Anthony Richardson wants out of Indy, even though if you're a Colts fan, you look at that and you would probably say, like, so you're the guy that they took 5th overall, hasn't lived up to the draft positioning, even though college football fans will tell you Anthony Richardson was a project at Florida that wasn't that great, so I don't know what you were expecting, but neither here nor there. The the times last season when you could have taken over, you found a way to hurt yourself working out and breaking your orbital bone. So when you could have stepped up and maybe established yourself as the guy, you were unavailable. Daniel Jones, the Daniel Jones who was seen as a bust with the Giants, was the savior for this season for the Colts until he ultimately got hurt at the end of the season. Now you want out. I don't know what Anthony Richardson's market is. He's still young. He's still a project. So that, I guess if you're a team with a plan to not contend now, but maybe 3-4 years from now, do you take a chance at an Anthony Richardson hoping you unlock what Indy couldn't unlock? I think that's a fascinating situation. Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins are out there potentially as vet options for, once again, teams who may not be able to get a top guy in the draft, who may miss out on, I guess, Malik Willis, or don't get Anthony Richardson. Can Rodgers and Cousins fill that gap until you find your next young guy? So, quarterback market is always a big part because it's a quarterback-driven league. Fourth, the defensive edge market, another position that teams always covet. And it's an interesting class. You have Trey Hendrickson, who seems like he's finally going to be out of Cincinnati. He is 31, so he's a bit older. I think he's the oldest one in the group. But 2024, he had 17 and a half sacks. Last year, kind of injury-riddled, but if he could get back to the 2024 form, even just for a year or two, I mean, he's a difference maker. Jalen Phillips was with the Dolphins, went to the Eagles. I wonder with Phillips, does he want to leave, Fangio's system, which kind of like expanded the type of player that he was. You have Odafe Owe, who was with the Ravens, went to the Chargers, had like 3 sacks in the game against the Patriots that they lost, but it seemed like he made himself some money with the move to the Chargers. You have K'Lavon Chasen, who had a breakout year for the Patriots, seemingly because the Patriots gave him a chance to be, every game starter. If you're a team looking to sign him, and look, if New England brought him back, I wouldn't hate it, but you have to wonder, was last year just a fluke year because it was a bit of a contract year, or did he prove that you give him the spot, you let him go out there and do his thing, and he can produce? Because he had 7.5 sacks last year. He had a couple in the playoffs as well. You have Boye Mafe, who I think during the season only had 2 sacks, but does he get a bump for being on a Super Bowl winning team? And maybe you're a team that looks at him and goes, well, the Seahawks defense was stacked. They play a certain way. If you made Mafe priority and a guy that you depend upon on your defensive line, could he have more production? I don't know. That's up for you to decide. The last one, the Vikings and the J.J. McCarthy stuff. They moved up to get him. The reports were that they supposedly wanted to move up more to get to Drake May. Patriots said no. So they took J.J. McCarthy, who was the guy that kind of moved up boards from his combine performance or whatever. And now it's one season later, the Vikings are having buyer's remorse on J.J. McCarthy, even though I think part of it was they kind of just threw him out there, obviously before he was ready. So now, do the Vikings just run it back with him, hope that he's improved enough that next season they're a better team? Or do they jump into the veteran market with a Kirk Cousins out there? Even though the quarterback market I talked about earlier, Tua factors into that most likely. Do they go after a Malik Willis, who is young, but obviously older than McCarthy, and hope Willis maybe takes the job from McCarthy, or they have them two battle, and maybe that brings out more from McCarthy? Do you go the veteran route and like a Kirk Cousins, where you know you're signing Kirk Cousins for like a year or two, allow JJ McCarthy to fully develop, and then turn it back over to him in a season or two. I think there's multiple ways they could go about it. I think it's interesting, and some of the pressure on Minnesota is in that division. We just saw Chicago take the big leap this past year. The Packers are still going to be there, and the Lions ultimately are still going to be there. So you have Justin Jefferson, you got Jordan Addison, you have T.J. Hawkinson, with Aaron Jones running the ball. You have Brian Flores, who is probably overproducing with the defensive personnel that you have. You kind of don't want to blow the potential in Minnesota because the quarterback position isn't up to par. So those are the five. And the honorable mention that I didn't even get to, the Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker is a free agent. What does his market look like? Not that long ago, running backs were out here holding up cardboard signs waiting for offers and hoping to get calls. I think we're starting to see a shift where NFL teams are like, hey, this era of, quarterbacks just spreading the ball around in high scoring games might be transitioning to running the ball, taking care of the ball, and playing stout defense. We just saw, the Seahawks take Sam Darnold, who was not seen as an elite quarterback, and get to a Super Bowl and win it behind a aggressive defense and Kenneth Walker running the ball, taking pressure off of Sam Darnold. So I'm fascinated to see what his market is. I'm sure Seattle would love to bring him back, but they can't bring him back at just any number. Like, does he get priced out of Seattle because he's a Super Bowl MVP? I think the NFL once again will be in the news for the next few months. Obviously, draft coming up and everything, but those are the five, plus the honorable mention about Kenneth Walker, the storylines, narratives, whatever, that I think we will be talking about all free agency long. So, as I said in the beginning, if you have a different one, put in the comments. Let's talk about it. If you think, if you want to add to any of mine, do that as well. But yeah, that's all I got for you. So I appreciate you tuning in. Once again, would love to hear from you in the comments section. Or if you don't, you're not comfortable leaving a comment, hitting a like, leaving a review, something like that, greatly appreciate. Will let me know that you appreciate this content. So thanks again. Make sure you enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, your night, whatever. Be safe. God bless. Until I talk to you next time, I'm out of here. All right. Bye.